Welcome to A Conversation with Your Congressman. I'm pleased to have with us today an excellent guest from the Department of Education, our friend Martha Kanter, who's the Undersecretary of the Department of Education, working with Arne Duncan, the Secretary, and you have a portfolio that's about as broad as can be. You have post-secondary education, you have adult and career technical education, you have the federal student aid, and about 5 other programs that are going out there, going on all the time. As well, I understand you're responsible for the first quarter of the monies that have been allocated out for community colleges. Yes. Congress passed a little while back $2 billion over 4 years for affordability, quality, and completion, implementing the president's idea of having a whole graduation initiative, making sure that more people graduate with degrees on that. And the idea being, I suspect that the president made a statement he wanted more the students to graduate by 2020, ready to work and ready to contribute as innovators on that, and as a percentage of people enrolling, he wanted to graduate. So that's a large portfolio and a big responsibility, and I know you're already working on it, right?
Yes, I am.
You're out there doing it. Now, people should know that Secretary Kanter is a Massachusetts-connected person. You took some courses at Salem State, right? You taught in Tewksbury,
Reading,
and Reading, in Lexington. It's out of our 6th district, but it's there as well. And so you got a degree out of Brandeis in sociology, a master's in education from Harvard before you went out to the left coast to San Francisco, and you got your doctorate out there. And what did you got your doctorate in organizational management?
Yes, higher education policy, organization and leadership is the program.
So you're well versed and ready to go on it. I should also acknowledge we've worked together on projects before on that, particularly community colleges and workforce investment types of concepts on that. And we enjoyed that experience, and we're going to enjoy working with you on this. What I thought we'd do to today's program is hopefully it'll be informative for people that are getting out of high school and in college and still paying bills related to college when they get out. So I'm going to try, in the short time allotted here, to break it into 3 parts. I'd like to talk a little bit about how people can choose an affordable college to attend, how they can pay for college once they've made their choice, and lastly, how to deal with those loans once we get out. Does that sound like a reasonable
Sounds
prospect?
Great. I'm ready to go.
So when Congress passed the Higher Education Opportunity Act, and I was very pleased to play a role in that, I thought we were moving in the right direction. In a partisan comment, if I can, the Democrats had the majority at that point in time. We were focusing on affordability and accessibility on that. So one thing that bill does was require the Department of Education to publish a variety of information about college affordability. We thought transparency was necessary. Families and students needed to see how any prospective institution was doing to help them make their choice. So the Department of Education actually put out a website that has had great acknowledgement. People have really said it did a great job. It's collegecost.ed.gov, G-O-V. Now, tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, what was exciting, and we have to thank you and President Obama and Congress for passing the legislation, the laws that enabled us to really implement 2 tools to help students and families know about the cost of college and what would be involved in going. The first is something that we call now College Navigator. And you can go out to College Navigator if you look on the web and make sure you go to the Department of Education. You'll find information about what majors are available to students, what the campuses are like, and how much it costs to attend a particular school.
So if I go right to the Department of Education.
Yes.
There's a section that says College
Navigator. Just
click
put it
on
into
that
Google,
and ready to go.
search it, or search for it in Bing, and you'll get College Navigator. Families want to know, how much am I going to really have to pay?
Right.
So a lot of what happens is you read in the newspaper, this college is going to cost $30,000, and people say, well, that's not going to be possible for me to pay that. Well, actually, that's the sticker price. It's not the net price. So
good luck explaining
the brilliant thing that you did was to make colleges and universities, and now we can pull that data into College Navigator and the other net price calculator. And that net price calculator that's also out there, if you type in net price calculator, U.S. Department of Education, you can compare College A, College B, College C, and see which one is the best for you with the net price. That's what you're actually going to pay, And then beyond that, you'll be able to get grants and loans that would be federal or state available to students.
So if I'm a student, junior or senior in high school, I go to the Department of Education, go to Navigator, then go to the college price calculator. On that price calculator, it's on your site?
Yes.
Not on the individual institution
Yes.
site?
It's on both.
Also on them, so you can go to the institution
Yes.
as well. And I have to feed in some rough information about my family's income?
Right.
And other things. Okay.
Yes, and every college has to display what their cost is, what the net price is, and whether students are going to pay how much for books and how much for room and board if they're going to board there, and how much tuition is. Tuition's really the make or break number for families. They want to know, am I paying every year this price, or is it going to go up, and can I really afford it? And I think what you did was with Congress to make sure that college information was going to be available and simple so families could get this information.
Well, I tell you, we took great pride in fighting the fight in the House, but Ted Kennedy fought the fight in the Senate, and he was a great partner to have on that. One of the other things that we did was we try to reward those schools that keep their price increases in tuition within the higher price cost index, so it doesn't go up very much on that, and give them a little reward with more campus-based aid, that they do that for 4 years consecutively, even a little bit more of an aid on that. So students that go to that college will know that that institution will be rewarded for that, and there'll be more opportunities, whether it's a Pell Grant kick up on that, or a work study, or some of the other campus-based aid things on that. So hopefully it's been helping students, but we've heard good things about that. There were some reports, we started to do a little oversight about some of the colleges maybe not putting it as prominently on their sites as some would like. Have you been doing any work on that, or trying to get people to deal with that issue?
Yes, well, we're doing a bunch of things, but one big thing that President Obama, because of your leadership and the leadership of other members of Congress, has done is propose for FY13, that's the next year, a college scorecard. And that would help families know what is the net price of college, which we would get from every college in the state, what is the graduation rate, what is the average price that graduates are paying back on their loans, their repayment rate, and their student loan indebtedness. So those are critical pieces of information that we want families to know, and we know that a lot of this information is available, but it's not easy for them to get. So the college scorecard is going to make it a one-stop shop. You want to know what these indicators are, and you want to compare college A and college B, you'll be able to do that. The other thing you did was to say that, and the president has proposed this in next year's budget, is that we would have a standard way that colleges would report this information. Good. So we will have what's called a financial aid shopping sheet, that every college will use the same parts, the same indicators. So you'll be able to really easily see what is that net price that I talked about, and what is going to be the full cost of going if I decide to go here versus there.
I think it's critical for families, and it's important on that. In 2010, we looked at the Student Aid and Fiscal Responsibility Act, otherwise known as SAFRA, on that. But basically what we tried to do is change the loans that have been private loans for too long a period of time, the federal family education loans, FFELs, and put it over to direct loans. So you get your loan directly from the school. I should note, I think we've talked about in this program before, that for long periods of time there was the notion that lending institutions had to be given some incentive to give out loans for education, and the incentives were subsidies, and then a good portion of the loan was guaranteed. Both very costly things to the federal treasury on that. So we've been dealing with this since President Clinton was in, making the point that those loans are going to be given anyway. It's a lucrative industry, and that we're probably wasting a lot of taxpayers' money with subsidies and with the guarantees. We won a little bit of the fight back in 2007 when we did an act I'll talk about in a minute, but we won the whole fight on that SAFRA Act, where we basically stopped the private lender loans on that and had the loans come directly from the school. That saved us $61 billion. That's huge. So we took a chunk of it and we paid down some of the debt, but then the administration has done wonderful things with the rest of it on that we've worked together with that. And part of it is we have put in place a increase in the Pell Grants, a sizable increase in Pell Grants. You might want to tell us a little bit about that, because it's a changing number. I'll let you do that first before I prattle on.
In 2008, before President Obama took office, we had 6 million students in American higher education who received a Pell Grant. And that grant is an amount of money. Today it's $5,550. So we've been able to increase the Pell Grant by over $800 in the last 2.5 years. But then we had 6 million students with Pell Grants. Today we have 9.6 million students receiving a Pell Grant, made possible by the legislation that you passed in March of 2010. So what happened there was that I can tell you, for example, I got some data on individuals in your congressional district. You have 11,445 students in Congressional District 6 who are receiving about $39 million made possible through student federal aid, Pell Grants, and loans. So it's critical for these students to afford college and have the resources that SAFRA made available, as you said, the legislation.
Well, you know, to digress just a second from what I promised you was going to be our three-step process on here, a lot of that is that over the years, states have really backed off of their contribution to higher education, particularly public higher education. And I know there's been tough economic times, but I think all the data shows us that when we go through a difficult economic time, cuts are very often made in higher education. When times get better, they're not really kicked back up, at least not appreciably. So they always keep falling behind. Difficult time, cuts, a little bit of an increase, another difficult time, more of a cut. So that we've come down a long way over the last 20 years or so from public support for public higher education. That's why we put the maintenance of effort provision in higher education. It was a tremendous fight to try and get it to stay in, but it did make a difference, and the reports are showing that a good number of states would have cut back even further had we not done that or whatever. So I think that all of this that the administration has done on accessibility, making sure the Pell Grants are almost as meaningful at least as they were when they were originally conceived, and we've got to move back in that direction. Keeping the interest rates lower, we did lower the interest rate on the Stafford loans. But the problem there is that's going to expire at the end of June, unless we can get our friends on the majority on the House or anything to understand that that's a serious impact for students. It'll go from 3.4% back to 6.8%, and we've got to stop that. So all of these things I think are really credible on that. So tell me what students should know about private student loans, though.
Okay, I think the first thing that we want students to do in this country, and certainly every student in Massachusetts who's a senior who is thinking about going, right now is the perfect time to go to the website and fill out and go to ed.gov because there are a lot of private sites that do the same thing, but you end up paying more money, and this is free. Right. Go to the ed.gov website and fill out the FAFSA. So if you go to FAFSA.ed.gov, that is the Federal Student Aid Application, FAFSA.ed.gov. That's critical. Fill that out. It will tell you what what availability you have based on your family income for student loans and the Pell Grant that I mentioned, and other grants, campus-based work study. It also is information that goes directly to Massachusetts that you use to give Massachusetts state aid. So it's a gateway to a lot of opportunities for students. They may not know about the scholarships, they may not know about the state grants. They certainly, too many, don't know about the federal grants, and we want to get students into that mix so they can be part of what we're hoping will be a doubling of the students in college who receive federal student grants and loans. We want you to get grants and scholarships first and then loans. But if you can get a direct student loan from the Department of Education, you will pay, we hope, 3.4% next fall. It could go up, it could double, but it's still not going to be 12, 13, 14, 15% that you would pay from a private lender. So we really want students and families to have this information.
And look, at this economic time, we're going to be fighting here to keep it at 3.4%. I mean, this is no time to be making things difficult for people and on that. Now, one of the things Tim Bishop from New York, my colleague from New York, and I tried to do is put a provision in the Higher Ed Opportunity Act for more cooperative education programs. People in my district will know as Northeastern University has it in there, but it's a good way to help people pay for their way through. The president has an idea that he's proposing in this budget to allow for work study to be used also, not just on campus, but also in private industry. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. We're really thrilled that the president and obviously, you know, through your leadership and others, would like to double work study funding. So these are students that will work while they go to college. We know the research is really clear. if you work and have a work opportunity, that will increase your chances to complete college. And by 2020, we want to increase by 50% the number of students graduating from college. We have a huge gap, and we want to fill that gap. Work study is one great way that will help students stay in school, earn some money to offset the cost of tuition or books or fees and other things, or their cost of living, their rent, and it's fantastic. Now, Joseph Aoun, who's president of Northeastern University, has talked with all of us many times, and he's considered a leader in the work study and cooperative education because we know that there are different ways to earn that kind of revenue. Sometimes students will have a job with a professor in a lab on campus. Maybe they want to be a scientist. We need more people graduating in scientific fields. But maybe, hopefully, businesses will step up to the plate and say, we will give X number of students from your school opportunities to have summer jobs, internships in the afternoon, a couple days a week while they're on campus, and really have the public-private partnerships, private-private partnerships, and public-public partnerships that'll make this available. So it's very exciting and we hope that will pass.
Yeah, the president's idea of broadening that out, I think, is very smart idea, but it's also one that businesses are hungry for. When I go around and talk to the different industries in my district and talk about this, all of them seem ready and prepared to do that. A lot of them already have schools like Northeastern sending interns in, but when you say, what about Salem State or Merrimack or Endicott, they're ready.
Right.
And they know these schools are putting good students out there that can really help their businesses, and a lot of times it's a way of getting somebody in the door that isn't as expensive as hiring on somebody that already has a degree, yet they get the experience, you get to see how that person works, and a lot of times it turns into a job in the long run as well.
Yeah.
And it works out pretty well. So we're hopeful for that.
We have a lot of great research that says this really works. Give students an opportunity to work, and they will return it fivefold. They'll become good graduates, they will become good workers for the economy, and they will become good citizens.
When I went to Salem State, I had a work study job. One thing, I had jobs off campus as well, but one of the jobs was work study campus, and it was really helpful. It's a good way to get aid or assistance on that, where you're also working for it, makes you feel better about it. But and somehow we always manage to still have a good time and get our study done, so the working didn't interfere that much.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't go up over 15 or so hours. Some students now today have to work full time.
We worked a little bit. We worked
really
far
difficult.
more than that number of hours, but we still managed to make it work. But I find a lot of students today working a lot of hours. The difference is, we talked about before, with states paying less into the system on that, they still end up having a tough time and end up taking out loans, and then they owe a lot of money at the end. So we get a lot of work to do in that regard. So now we've taken people looking to go to college, we've got them in school, and now we're getting them out with the loans, or we're at least trying to pay back on that.
Right.
Tell us about the income-based repayment plan. This is a provision we put in 2007 with the College Cost Reduction and Access Act. I don't know why we always make them so long. But the whole idea of the notion of income-based repayment, I think, is very, very helpful, but I'd love to have you explain it for folks.
Well, today, and we really need to get the word out to every American who's thinking of going to college and is concerned about big loans that they have to pay back. For eligible borrowers, a monthly payment would be no more than 15% of the individual's discretionary income. It's called income-based repayment. You can go to the web and look at this. Again, go to the department's website. It's www.nslds.ed.gov.
You might want to say that a couple of times.
Yeah, nslds.ed.gov. If you just put in U.S. Department of Education income-based repayment, you will go to the website. And that will tell you that the government will forgive the balances on your loans after 25 years. But that will not cover private loans. That is just government loans.
So if you have the direct loan that we talked about,
if you have the
take
direct
it out, you
loan,
pay 15% of your discretionary income consistently for 25 years. If there's any balance, it gets wiped out.
It'll be zeroed out.
But now we passed
the
bill more recently that lowered that to 10%.
Right. And for the public service loan forgiveness.
Right. On that part of it, and moving on. And then the president took his own initiative.
Right. For next year, pay as you earn. So the public service loan forgiveness, these are people that would want to get a government job, a job as a teacher, a job as a firefighter, a police officer, any public service, local government, state government, federal government jobs. or public service jobs. Some nonprofits will apply, will be eligible for this. A student will get a direct loan. They will pay no more than 10% of their discretionary income. It'll come right over to us from the IRS, and then that will be forgiven after 10 years. So anything left on the loan will be zeroed out, and thank you again for that.
Well, in addition, we've taken the 15, 25-year thing and loaded it to 10,
Right.
20.
Right.
Starting in 2014. So
Right.
that's a helpful piece. I think the president either thinking of moving that forward or
Yeah,
did move
we're
it forward a little
regulating
bit
on that now, so we're looking forward to that.
So
and we'll
I mean, it's
let
just
you know.
helpful. I think if you're looking to take a job that you really want to do that might not pay as much as
Right.
another job, or if you just want to start a family or buy a house or get out of your parents' house and rent someplace or whatever,
Right.
and start your life. I think we've got to relieve some of the burden that students are feeling on that. And the difficult thing, and people ask this all the time, is well, what about the graduate who's out there and has private loans and finds himself in a difficult situation on that? We've not yet figured out how to consolidate those or move those back into a
Right.
direct loan
Right.
to take advantage of this. And it would have been a serious amount of money that the fight down here was just not something that was going to be won in terms of doing that. But there are a lot of students out there, graduates rather, students who have a debt burden, and it's a question that we hear about it with the Occupy Wall Street group and stuff like that. It's not that people are unmindful of it, it's just trying to get a solution for it that fits in a budget in difficult times and is fair to people on that. So,
Yeah.
but we have dealt with the people that are in their college, now graduating, have direct loans with the income-based repayment plan, with the more significant Pell Grants, and of course with the lower interest rates, and we just have to keep moving in that
Right.
direction.
And the other thing is the American Opportunity Tax Credit that you supported.
Right.
That's amazing, and I actually did, I also got some research from the American Opportunity Tax Credit. I'm trying to see, 195,000 Massachusetts residents received an American Opportunity Tax Credit from the federal government in 2011. And what that is $2,500, up to $2,500 a year for 4 years of an undergraduate education. People need to know to apply for
$10,000.
this.
Yeah.
My cab driver last week didn't know about it. He was just filling out his taxes. I said, ask, you're in school right now, ask your accountant. You have to finish the first year of college. So you have to be, finish the freshman year or the sophomore year, but you will get that money back as a tax credit and also a check. So please look for that.
I don't think that we do a good enough job publicizing that, so I'm glad that you brought it up.
Yeah.
I sometimes forget to add that in when I'm talking about the income-based repayment, the lower interest rates, the Pell Grants, the work study, and because sometimes I think of it as a tax issue as opposed to education, but it really is an education benefit.
And for
people.
families, you got to remember all these things. Well, our job is to get it all in one place. We have a College Affordability and Transparency Center. We're going to be putting all of this stuff in one place so you can see what you qualify for. You have to do the research, and we really want to get the word out to families.
So the easiest place for me to go is just into ed.gov.
ed.gov, and just type in College Affordability and Transparency Center, or College Affordability, or Pell Grants. You'll get it right, or income-based repayment. Any of the words we
They'll
used
all
on the
lead you in the
video,
same
they'll
direction.
all get you the same place.
All right. So do you have any other advice you want to give to people that have private loans out there that have graduated?
Yeah, I think you have to, first of all, talk to your servicer. You have a loan servicer. I would, if you've graduated already and you have questions about what you have and any opportunities to consolidate, you can always go back to where you graduated from and ask the federal student aid people. I mean, they will be more than happy to help not only the students who are in college today, but graduates. The graduates are the alums. They have an investment and you're getting a benefit, and we don't want to see this generation having so much private loans that they go into debt and they can't repay. So we've got to put a stop to that and do what we can to get the word out about all the things that we've talked about this afternoon.
That's been great. Can you tell me a little bit before we have to sign off here, the $2 billion that went for the community college program, it's $500 million a year, and then the first group I think you're just getting ready to put out, the first round of that. Give me a little idea of what the direction is that you're moving toward with that.
Sure. A week ago Friday, Vice President Biden announced a $500 million competition available to community colleges and their partners across the country. So a community college in Massachusetts or a consortium of community colleges in Massachusetts could partner with the state universities, with private sector, with business and or government, and figure out what do we need to do next to get more students across the finish line. That's what we want. We are not graduating enough students in a shorter amount of time. We have a lot of underprepared students coming into the community colleges. So this money is to accelerate achievement. I use that word AA, accelerate achievement. Figure out, in nursing, can we put in a simulation lab with this money and get more students really learning the new technologies related to nursing so they will become the nursing graduates of the future? Can we do all kinds of things in high need areas, and manufacturing is coming back in the country, IT, healthcare, lots of jobs, radiologic technician, all kinds of training opportunities for students, and this money is to do just that, but it's to build on innovation. The ideas don't come really from Washington. Where it happens is the classroom, it happens in the campuses, it happens in your districts. So we've got to get this money out to the schools so that they can partner with the private sector. We want the manufacturers involved. We want to have the standards. What do we need? We need more people to produce new robots for the nation. So we're going to put in a robotics plant in Massachusetts. Well, we're going to need X number of technicians, X number of scientists, X number of staff support, and the community colleges can step up and do that training, but they can't do it alone. No. They have to do it with business, and they have to do it with higher education partners because it's about lifelong learning.
Well, we have a little bit of a head start in Massachusetts because 20 of our community colleges formed a consortium and got some relief under the Recovery Act to work on a similar type of project on that. So they have a history of working together and being innovative on that. We've got great community college presidents and state college presidents in the state, but in the 6th district in particular, that are working on programs of getting people ready to excel for businesses and for their own benefit on that. So we're really looking forward to that. Madam Secretary, you've been great. We've been a wonderful guest, and you've informed us, I think, in a good way that students both in high school and college hopefully will be able to get a benefit from it and move on. It is all about access and affordability and graduating in a way that will help you have a good life going on, and I hope we've been a little bit of assistance for folks today.
It's been fantastic. I mean, the president has said we need to have, for this country, the best educated, most competitive workforce in the world. We're going to do that in the way that all of the changes and ideas and implementation plans you've talked about today are going to make that happen.
Well, our parents did it for us, and I think it's time for everybody to step up and understand that if we really want to be competitive and if we want to be innovative and move forward, then education is all about opportunity and making sure it happens. So thank you very, very much for joining us here today. I look forward to hopefully doing it again sometime soon and even broader subjects.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.